Going to be talking about OTT for the upcoming coffee break. Will Danielson, who is the VP of Sales at Sales West at Gamut, and Rachel Williamson, who's General Manager. Please welcome Rachel and Will.
Hey guys, thanks. Is this thing on? Great. This is Will Danielson. He's on West Coast time, on East Coast time with a lot of you, so bear with me here. So we wanted to talk to you today about local OTT. A lot of what we've talked about over the last 2 days are issues that we deal with as an industry. But when you start to look at executing every single impression at a very granular, localized DMA, demo, and even maybe behavioral target, it comes with a lot of different challenges. So we wanted to take you through some of the myths, some of the capabilities that you can see in local, and then other ways that we look at it as an industry.
So briefly, we want to, a little bit taller than the mic, we want to give you kind of an intro into who Gamut is. One of the things that makes us really unique is that we have 120 years of local media experience. When you look at our television footprint, when you look at the other businesses that Cox has really invested in with Cox Communications and Cox Automotive, we have this rich history in data and local media activation. So Gamut itself is a pure play digital LLC with 15 years of local experience, but over the last couple of years, as everyone's been talking about, it's been all around OTT and the trends shifting. And as a local TV company, or what we were, it's important to note that we see the trends as well and that we're getting in front of it. So we want to debunk a couple of myths that we thought were important to share, especially around local OTT advertising. The first is the fact, market insights, the content, data targeting, transparency, which is extremely important to us, and measuring success. So first, we want to dive into the fact that target audience is not the same, no matter where you are. You guys might see this. This isn't a hipster from Brooklyn, he's a hipster from Chicago, so he's a little bit different than the guys from Data Zoo. But folks in the Midwest are obviously different than folks on the West Coast and folks on the East Coast. And the way that you target them is going to be very different. And having a geo-targeted campaign just in Des Moines, Iowa versus Chicago is very different. And just putting on a behavioral attribute doesn't necessarily mean the same impact for that campaign in Des Moines and Chicago. So what we take is a localized approach from the ground up and say, every single market is unique and every impression is unique in that market. So how do we make it stronger for you guys? That's an approach that we like to take. Not many folks do that. The other thing that we want to debunk is the fact that everyone uses these same acronyms, but in very different ways. Folks come out there and they talk about FEP, full episode player. Well, what does that mean to you? We have folks in market that say FEP to me is 14 minutes in length or longer. Well, to us, it's all about television. It's all about 22 minutes in length. It's the Hollywood style content. Or what is OTT? Well, that's on the wall. No, it could be platform agnostic. Make sure you're level setting with the folks having these conversations. And as an industry, I think it's important that we start to standardize the meanings of the words that we're using. Here's an example of some of the platforms that or publishers that we actually partner with. It's a very big burden to activate local markets at scale when you're talking about extended reach, especially across multiple platforms. Everyone uses the same quality buzzwords with quality, premium, direct access, and priority access, and it all goes into how they go about acquiring this media and how they go about scaling in the local markets. For those of you that have been activating in the programmatic space, we've been having some conversations with you guys on the side, and one of the #1 challenges we see is that, oh, I'm going to activate programmatically because it's so much easier for our agency to do. One of the challenges you have is there's no guaranteed inventory. There's no way to scale that in local markets, especially when you apply on all the data. So one of the approaches that we took was, wait a second, we have 120 years of local media experience. We have years of activating video specifically in these local markets and great relationships. Why not go publisher to publisher where we have these relationships and create something that's going to be really unique and guaranteed in market? So when you want to get active in a Paducah, which most people don't know is in Kentucky, we can still scale that market and tell you exactly the type of impressions and inventories that you're going to get. The third myth is about targeting audiences. Everyone's main challenge so far is I want to go find a person who wears a red hat on Tuesdays in the middle of nowhere. Well, we can go find you that one, but is it really going to have the most impact by leveraging all the first and third party data partners out there? Or do you want to go with more of a broad strategy? I'm going to run you RON across whatever network is out there. To us, it's kind of a mix of both. It's not just the television demos of adults 25 to 54, 18 to 49, but there's behavioral attributes as well. And being able to scale both of those simultaneously is extremely important. So we've been talking a lot about national buys, and one of the heat maps that we saw earlier was kind of interesting, because if you're running a national buy, you think everything highlighted up here is exactly what I'm going to get. In reality, we know that you're getting just where the highest activation is. But we take it a step further. You've got to think about, what is the opportunity in market? There are folks that are still consuming this type of content in other markets that are outside of just where the highest activation is on a national campaign. And you can see an increased ROI, or return on ad spend, when you're activating or heaving up in these local markets. And that's part of the strategy as you start to consult with the brands that you represent. Where can I get more bang for my buck? Where am I missing an opportunity to drive incremental revenue for some of these brands?
So on myth number 4, what we have is all OTT is brand safe. I think that is something that, as those of us who went through the programmatic display era of a decade plus ago at this point, I don't like to age myself, but it is somewhat of an evolving media where just because it's OTT and the definitions are confusing doesn't mean that it's necessarily brand safe. So one of the things that we truly believe in is, when we're talking about FEP and truly Hollywood level content, that being able to report to our clients exactly where your ads are running is incredibly important. So 2 years ago, we started launching by at minimum channel level reporting in our local markets. This year we launched true household reach and frequency and audience demographics through that. Again, it's really difficult sometimes to look at that on a localized level, but we believe that it's important, because as we start as an industry to navigate through this space, if we're talking about the truly premium long form full episode inventory, part of that value is the content. It's the engagement that the audience has with it. And if we aren't able to report on that, then some of that value is lost. And lastly, measuring success. Everyone reports on a local level. That is not necessarily true, right? So we really do truly believe that local is not simply zip targeting. So what we've done is we look at the billions of impressions that we serve every year, and we start to understand between Paducah, Kentucky versus New York City versus San Francisco, where are those impressions? A lot of our network partners, one of the challenges they have is that they're a national network built for national. So we're helping them understand, where are we seeing these impressions lie, and being a true local partner. But for our clients, we can also start to see those forecasting, the behavioral attributes, who's doing, what content providers in which markets are pushing to QSRs, and kind of what the panel before was alluding to, starting to look at performance in those households and the content that leads to those households, and work backwards for data targeting from attribution into a deliverable media plan. And in order to do that, I think understanding the nuances of the inventory and the data per market are important and local.
So we wanted to give you an example of a campaign that we actually ran. This was a QSR, and the impact of what local means. So after we ran this OTT specialized campaign, or this full episode player campaign in some of these markets, there was 45,000 different restaurants that were impacted from the local franchisee level. And what we saw was a 16% lift in store visitation, which resulted in about $500 and something thousand of return on ad spend. And when you're a local franchisee, that's some significant money. And then the other way to look at it is that you have over 3 out of 5 consumers went into the store, but it was on average about 6 days afterwards. Very similar to television, where it doesn't have the immediate impact where you're trying to drive it from the results-driven, KPI-oriented campaigns. It's kind of that longer tail where you're going to get some folks to walk in not just the next day or an hour later. It's 5, 6, 7, maybe 30 days later, but you're still having an impact, and the way we measure that is a little unique.
So what's next? Through all of this, I think all of us in this room and the leaders in the industry are really trying to take traditional TV models that have been successful in their own right and traditional digital models that have been successful in their own right, and merge those strategies and figure out when do we do what and why and how, and no one's really got the answers yet, right? We're all testing and trying to figure out. So one of the things that we've been committed to is launching an EDU series. So if you're interested in that, find myself. It's not a Gamut pitch. Will really wanted it to be one. But it's really, truly us going out into the regional markets, trying to inform the marketplace and our clients around what the industry truly is, what are the content, the units, the players in the space, what can you and can't you do within data, because we really believe the more educated we all can become on what is truly capable and what is truly out there, we can start to figure out who does what best. Because as OTT has become such a huge industry and space, I think it's time that we start really looking at those subsets of it and the different strategies, and really defining what are we trying to accomplish and who are the partners in the space that can really help you do what that exact strategy is best. So thank you for your time, and grab one of us if you ever need anything.